Since 1876, it's been our mission to help you navigate daily life, reporting on what matters most to the communities where you live and work. In all we do, we are Central Florida. This is the Orlando Sentinel.
For nearly a century, you've counted on OUC for sustainable, safe, and reliable water and energy. You've relied on us, you've powered us. Thank you for making OUC the reliable one, the #1 most trusted electric utility in the nation.
We just pray for the healthcare workers.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Orlando Sentinel's 6th Annual Central Floridian of the Year Awards Ceremony presented by Advent Health. I am Scott Maxwell. I'm a columnist for the Orlando Sentinel, and I am really pleased to be here with you tonight for really what has become one of my favorite events of the year, a night I think you will find both inspiring and humbling. You know, I spend a lot of my time writing about what's wrong in politics. And trust me, in Florida, there is no shortage of material on that front. But tonight, we are focused exclusively on what is right, the people who are transforming and in some cases, literally saving lives. Now, normally we do this event in person, which I think everyone prefers. Not only can we see each other, there's an open bar, which I know is always a highlight for a number of our past winners, like the Apopka Nuns. Speaking of which, we have a number of the past winners and past finalists who are here with us tonight. And if any of you former finalists and winners are here with us, please say hello. You can use the chat feature to do so, and maybe even mention the year when you were recognized. And if you do want to chat, make sure you click to send your message to go to all panelists and all attendees. Otherwise, you might just be talking to yourself, which admittedly, I do all the time as well. So yeah, things are a little weird in Zoom, but the good news is you get to do all of this in the comfort and privacy of your home, of your own home, which means pants are optional. And tonight, I promise you'll be just as inspired, pants or no pants. So now I want to give an introduction to our first live speaker. She is a fearless leader, and I'm not just saying that because she signs my paycheck, though she does sign my paycheck. She is committed in her crusade to provide readers with public information, even if it means hiring lawyers to access it, which is something we have to do with disturbing frequency. She's a true journalist, and I'm glad to have her at the top of our organization. She is the Orlando Sentinel's executive editor. Please welcome Julie Anderson.
Thank you, Scott, for the kind words. No one's a bigger advocate for Central Florida than Scott Maxwell, so it's right that he highlight the best among us. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. This is a special annual event to the Orlando Sentinel for many reasons. Not only do we enjoy honoring the 2020 Central Floridian of the Year finalists and the winner, but we also use the opportunity as an event, the opportunity to look back at the people who've made transformative contributions through the years. I'm honored to be speaking to you amongst a group of standout leaders, innovators, philanthropists, creative thinkers, and visionaries. It's your compelling and selfless contributions to this community that we're here to celebrate. Achievements like yours have inspired us for more than 30 years to single out an outstanding individual or group for making a positive difference in our community. Thanks to you, the Orlando Sentinel's Central Floridian of the Year is still a coveted title. I'd also like to take this time to thank our editorial board members for their continued dedication to this program. and for so eloquently telling the Central Floridian of the Year stories every year. This past year was especially challenging because the world turned upside down, but they had an unwavering commitment to make this program happen. Each year, they took on the difficult task of selecting a small group of finalists among a much larger group of many worthy candidates. Fortunately, they get a lot of help from readers, but even so, it's a very difficult decision, so thank you guys. The Central Floridian of the Year program gives us a unique opportunity to take a moment to celebrate the good happening in Central Florida. Thank you all for your contributions, and I look forward to honoring you tonight.
Thanks so much, Julie. Events like this take a lot of time and they also take resources. So I'd like to thank our two longtime sponsors of the event, our supporting sponsor, OUC, and also our title sponsor, Advent Health. Both groups have supported this event for a number of years. So at this time, I would like to next introduce Randy Hafner, the president and CEO of Advent Health Central Florida, to say a few words.
Good evening. I'm thrilled to join you for this event that recognizes so many of the people who have made Central Florida a better place during one of the toughest and most unpredictable years many of us have ever experienced. Thank you to the Orlando Sentinel for gathering us safely and virtually so we can take a moment to appreciate the contributions of the 6 finalists here today and the resilience of our community, which has persevered through a pandemic that touched all of us. We at Advent Health are honored to be amongst those finalists, along with our healthcare colleagues across Central Florida. I am so grateful to the 37,000 Central Florida physicians and team members at Advent Health for the commitment, talent, and compassion they displayed throughout 2020 amid conditions we've never seen before. They care for patients, cook meals, clean rooms, prescribe medications, answer phones, and greet visitors with a kind of uncommon compassion that we believe is so important to our mission of extending the healing ministry of Christ through the whole person care we deliver at Advent Health. Our region will be stronger because of this experience that we have endured together. People are called into healthcare to serve, not for recognition, and we are humbled by the way the community has rallied to support and thank healthcare workers, including the invitation to be here tonight. I continue to pray for healing of all those touched by COVID-19 and for the healing of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. We appreciate the support of Advent Health for this year's event and years in the past. As most of you know, this program has been around for a long time, 30 years in fact, but everyone may not be familiar with the history of the program. And for those who aren't, we'd like to share this new video we've put together to give you an idea of how it all began and why it continues today.
Central Floridian of the Year is one of the Orlando Sentinel's most enduring traditions. It's a way to honor the accomplishment of a person or a group of people who made our lives better that year. It started back in 1983 when Ronald Reagan was still serving his first term as president. We first called it Floridian of the Year, and the recipient could be anyone in the state. Some of the award winners were Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who led the fight to save the Everglades, Jack Eckerd, the drugstore tycoon, who worked to reform prisons. Another was Fred Humphreys, who grew up in poverty and eventually led Florida A&M as its president. In 2001, the Sentinel renamed the award Central Floridian of the Year to give it a more regional focus. The award winners were no less distinguished, though. They include Henry Landworth, the founder of Give Kids the World, Dick Batchelor, who led the fight for better schools in Orange County, and hotelier Harris Rosen for his philanthropy and his job creation. We've even selected groups of people on a few occasions, including the Little Leaguers from Apopka, who won the National World Series in 2001, the nuns from Northwest Orange County for their tireless work to help the impoverished, and the ER trauma team at Orlando Health that saved lives after the Pulse tragedy. And in 2018, we named Desmond Meade the award winner because of his successful campaign to restore the right to vote to people who had served their time in prison. We've made other changes along the way. In 2010, we started asking readers for nominations because, as much as we'd like to think we know everything, we don't. Reader nominations introduced us to Michael Dippy, who leads iDignity and was our 2010 winner. This is a special time of year for the Sentinel's editorial board. We get to spend some time focusing attention on people who make our region a better place.
Thank you for that, Mike. Now, by now you might be wondering how we select the winners, and I want to let you know that part is easy. It's whoever signs up for the most newspaper subscriptions. Now, I'm just kidding about that, though it would not hurt in all seriousness. In all earnestness, though, this selection process is one we take really seriously and one in which, as Mike mentioned, we ask the readers to guide us. And this year, well, it was unlike any other. To explain a bit more about that, how this process went during a pandemic here, I'd like to now invite to the virtual stage the leader behind the Central Floridian of the Year program, the guy you just saw featured in the video, Mike Lafferty. He is the opinions editor. He also happens to be my editor. So if you don't like any of my columns, that's on Mike. In all seriousness, Mike is a committed newsman, as committed as any I have ever worked with. He's still passionate about his job every day, and he's going to give you a little bit more background on the selection process and the program. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Lafferty.
Oh, hey, thanks, Scott. I was trying to keep things as normal as possible. We had a happy hour the last time we did this together, a hotel ballroom, where we honored the Central Floridian of the Year finalists and announced the winners. A lot has changed in a year, but one thing that hasn't changed is our devotion, the devotion people show to one another and their community. And, the pandemic, it's been a terrible time for so many people in so many ways. But it's all the more reason for us to get together virtually so we can publicly recognize and thank the people who confronted the challenges of 2020 and gave us all hope. This year we received dozens of nominations from readers, and nearly all of them made some kind of reference to the pandemic. Readers were clearly singling out people who helped them get through 2020 and people who rose to the challenge. So like last year, we had a good many nominations and so many good ones that we picked 6 finalists instead of the traditional 5. And in just a few minutes, we'll tell you who won. Right now, however, we'd like to show you a video featuring our 2019 winner, the Reverend Mary Lee Downey.
Last year, I had the privilege of being recognized as the Orlando Sentinel's Central Floridian of the Year. It was an incredible honor receiving this award on behalf of our team at Hope Partnership as its CEO. The recognition came at a great time for us as it allowed us to raise awareness about our work in the community just as a global pandemic was about to destabilize that very community. We had planned to spend 2020 focused on building an affordable housing neighborhood. Instead, we spent most of the year making sure our neighbors were able to feed their families. We leveraged every resource we could to serve those who were being failed by our state's broken unemployment system, who were seen as not American enough to receive stimulus checks because they were asylum seekers in our community. We worked to evacuate dozens of families from a hotel that had become unfit for human habitation, and we continue to look for solutions to the affordable housing crisis. The eviction moratoriums have kept families housed for now, but when those past rents come due, we may be facing an eviction crisis in Central Florida that no one is prepared for. Our desire to meet all these different needs in the community made it clear to us that we needed to be much more than the Community Hope Center. Late last year, our board voted to rename our organization to Hope Partnership. The Hope Center still exists, and we continue to serve those living in hotels and motels on the streets and in the woods along the tourism corridor. And we're ramping up our housing efforts, and thanks to a gift from Advent Health, we are creating a program to help those who are forced to panhandle transition into productive careers in this community. We're also spending more of our time speaking with our elected officials to change the policies that allow poverty and homelessness in Central Florida. And as we expand into all these places, we continue to feed and clothe our neighbors, transition individuals and families into permanent housing, and walk alongside those we serve on their path to self-determined success. We're living out our mission of empowering neighbors, strengthening communities, and building hope here in Central Florida and beyond. We believe poverty does not have to exist in this country. It only exists because we continue to let it. I'm proud to have been named the Central Floridian of the Year, and every single one of this year's nominees deserve to share this honor alongside me and those who have come before. We are a passionate community of change makers, and I know that each one of you have worked to bring hope to our community during a time that has felt hopeless in so many ways. Last year, I ended my speech by saying, "And we are not done." And I'll end this one the same way. There's a lot of work to be done in Central Florida towards equality and justice for all. But I know with this year's nominees and all those who care about Central Florida, we can make it happen by working together, because we know we are not done. Congratulations to all the nominees, good luck, and thank you again to the Orlando Sentinel editorial board.
Thank you, Mary. On a personal note, I want to say thank you, Mary, for all of the transformative work you have done in this community, which is why you were a solid choice last year. But I also want to thank you for continuing to be a major figure on the front of addressing wages and wage inequality and poverty. The thing I think you do most that I admire is speak truth to power. And I think we could use a little bit more of that. So congratulations again, Mary. Thanks for being our honoree over the past year. Now, at this time in the past, we would usually be enjoying a delicious meal, inviting people to the stage to shake hands. This year, you're free to eat and shake whatever you want. Smack your lips, slurp your soup as loudly as you please, as long as you're on mute. And while you do that, we are going to start honoring our finalists. And we're going to get right down to business right now. Our first finalist is actually an elected official, and that is something we don't do very often, choose someone in elected office. But a lot of readers had a lot of praise for this one because of a lot of hard work she did on behalf of others. Her name is State Representative Anna Eskamani, and this is her story.
One thing I've realized throughout this pandemic is an eviction notice doesn't care if you're Democrat or Republican. They don't care if you're a voter or not. The unemployment system doesn't care the color of your skin. And yet we know that within these systems, disparities do exist.
We have been pushing both agencies and the governor's office every damn day to get some movement.
Folks come to us as a last resort. You know, when you call a state lawmaker, it's usually because you've exhausted every option. So you are tired, you are weary, you are scared.
So for folks that are waiting and sick and tired of waiting, I want you to also know that I am with you.
It's important that we have as many happy endings as possible, but we know in a state like Florida, it's really, really tough.
It's up to us to do something about it, to ensure that we are not facilitating a transactional approach to politics, but we're practicing what I like to call transformational politics.
Which is why we can't just deliver the service, we have to mobilize for better services. Whether it was Black Lives Matter and standing up against police brutality, being very clear on the racial disparities we see, or if it's challenging the governor and these state agencies that are not doing their job.
It has been a disaster, to put it bluntly. We have seen the Connect system continue to cause so much stress for everyday people, payments be delayed.
I'm not in this work to play nice. I'm not in this work to go along to get along. And I'm here to help lead the direction of what I've been inspired to do by those around me.
During this pandemic, our workers have suffered enough, and they had no money saved for this pandemic.
And so I think back to my district, I think back to the folks that we've worked with, the folks that have come to us for help, and the young people who are looking for a path to their own empowerment. And that is truly, truly my foundation, and it's what keeps me up late at night working. It's what gets me up early in the morning.
Congratulations, Anna. You know, when you do an event on Zoom, you get to see the comments go by. It is interesting to watch them. A common sentiment while her video was playing was yes, with a lot of S's, and Anna responded LOLOL. So take that to the bank, people. Our next finalist is no stranger to anyone who has ever turned on a TV or seen a billboard on the side of Interstate 4. He also likes Arby's, as we learned from his Twitter and TikTok account in the past 24 hours. But John Morgan wasn't nominated or selected for this honor because of his legal work or his law firm, but because of the monumental and successful effort he made to address the issues of low wages and poverty in the state. You may know John Morgan from TV, but you may not know his full story. This is John Morgan, and this is his story.
When people can make more money staying at home than going to work, the system's broken. I mean, that's what's splitting the country apart. And there's real suffering. 40% of America has less than $400 in the bank. Most people live below poverty, even though they work. But I just decided, to the minimum wage, it'd be worse if I didn't try. And the good that comes out of it, like 1.3 million people are lifted out of poverty. We have collected over 120,000 signatures. There's a requirement of 76,000 signatures. There's a prayer that I think about all the time, which is important to me. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. Our charity, our philanthropy has always revolved around food, medicine, water, shelter, clothing. We believe that those things give people dignity. What we're all looking for is peace. This minimum wage was my service piece, but it emanated from prayer, faith, and love. And I will tell you, the night of that election, I went to bed incredibly peaceful. It was like the whole prayer made sense.
Thank you, John. We appreciate all of the hard work you have done this past year, and I appreciate the fact that you felt comfortable enough to stay slouched in your lounge chair through that entire interview. So congratulations, though, John. Our next finalist is Chris Nikic. Now, some of us have trouble motivating ourselves to get up in the morning and do a 3-mile jog. Well, Chris has done a lot more than that and managed to inspire millions of people along the way. That's why he was a solid choice to honor tonight. If you don't know him, this is Chris Nikic, and this is his story.
In the distance, I could hear people fighting, people pushing.
Let's welcome to the finish line and give it to him, Chris Nikic.
And then, when you cross the line,
put your hands together again. You did it, Chris, with his handler Dan Green. Amazing. Put your hands together again for the history in the making.
And I knew. I did the whole freaking race.
A typical week for Chris training for the Ironman, especially the last 3 months. Minimum train 3 hours a day, maximum 8 to 9 hours a day. On weekends, he would do his long swim, run, and bike.
But the problem with the training is complicated. It's about getting the right nutrition. It's about not becoming isolated. It's about getting up every morning, and be part of the community.
What Chris has done is liberating for parents like us, because other young parents, when they're given the news, instead of hearing all of the stuff that their child can't do, hopefully they'll hear about Chris and others like him who can show them what is possible. So I think God uniquely picked him to be an example to others and really have a positive impact.
Lots of people are telling me what I can do. My mindset is that I can do anything that I can set my mindset to. So if we're talking about Chris Nikic's life, as an Ironman, I can beat everyone.
Chris Nikic, you are an Ironman!
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I got a little choked up about that one. Thank you, Chris, for all you have done to inspire so many. All right, for our next finalist, some of you may remember the story from your childhood of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. It's the story of a fuzzy, little raspy-voiced critter who felt an obligation to speak up for the trees that were being slaughtered in that tale. Well, I've referred to our next finalist, Chuck O'Neill, as our own local Lorax. If you don't know him, this is Chuck O'Neill, and this is his story.
Florida, more than any other state in the nation, depends on its waterways, not only for a source of water, but also for our enjoyment, beauty, perhaps most of all, our tourism. So if we want to remain inviting to tourists from around the world, we've got to clean up our act. And I realized something needed to be done. We are live on the Right to Clean Water page. We're live on Speak Up Wekiva. And we realized, okay, this is going to be a very unusual campaign. We have an election coming up on Tuesday, November 3rd. There's going to be no door knocking, but we had to do a digital campaign.
On November 3rd, we have an opportunity to have a seat at the table.
Charter Amendment 1 provides Orange County residents to be the legal guardians of their waterways.
By voting yes on Charter Question Number 1.
This was not a Democratic initiative. This was not a Republican initiative. It touched every sector. It gives the Wekiva, the Econ, and all other water bodies in Orange County 4 rights. The right to exist, the right to flow, the right to be protected against pollution, and the right to maintain a healthy ecosystem. Nobody who's working on the campaign ever anticipated a vote of 89%, especially in quite likely the most partisan election of our time. So what we started here has spread statewide. We're now working with 30 different municipalities to pass a similar ordinance or charter amendment in their community. We citizens can actually do this and advocate on behalf of nature, really.
You know, as Chuck mentioned, those charter amendments got over 80, close to 90%. I'd submit that if we could get that kind of support for more issues in America, the world would probably be a better place. So congratulations, Chuck. And you know, one of the comments I just saw from my friend Terry in the chat box was she wrote, "This is so humbling. I feel like I need to do more." That's what tonight is all about, to recognize those who are doing and inspiring others. So I'm glad you all are here with us tonight to appreciate all that. Our next finalist may not be a household name, but he has worked tirelessly to help households throughout Central Florida, especially those where parents are working hard every day and still struggling to make ends meet. His name is Father Jose Rodriguez, and this is his story.
I'm going to be hustling till I'm 80. I'm going to be preaching at that altar until I can't preach anymore, or whatever altar the Lord takes me to. But for this community, I'm beginning to see what this community needs, but I also see how far away it is. We need housing. Housing isn't going to happen overnight. We need culturally competent jobs programs, better educational opportunities for our children. We're beginning to see the light. Roberto Clemente Middle School was a light. That was a huge injustice that Latinos took down. Our response to Hurricane Maria was another bit of light. But the things that we've been able to accomplish here is because there's a big guy upstairs who knows time and space, and he knew what this community needed, and he put the things in place for the community to get what they needed. We keep on pointing fingers. Oh, it's the government's job, that's not the church's job. Well, you know what? My job, true religion is this, is to take care of the widow. The widow is the vulnerable, the person in need. So if my government isn't taking care of the vulnerable and the people in need, one, I put them on notice. You should be doing that. Yes, government, you should be taking care of the vulnerable. But the reality is they're not. I can't spend my ministry focused on woulda, coulda, shouldas. I can't spend my ministry focused on how it should be or how I want it to be. My ministry is reality. So reality right now in Azalea Park is people don't have homes, people don't have food on the table, people don't have jobs. And until then, that is our impossible dream. But for this community, It is not my calling to sit at a table, write letters, and say they need that. It is my calling to lift other people up and go do something about it. And until the government does something about it, that's where I'll be working.
You know, one of my favorite quotes from the current Pope is that you pray for the hungry and then you feed them. That's how faith works. Well, this is the second year in a row we've had a faith leader as a finalist, and these are the people who truly model what faith is all about. So thank you, Father, for all you've done and all you continue to do for this community. All right, our last, but certainly not the least, of the 6 finalists for 2020 is actually a group of people. Now, we don't often choose groups of people for finalists for this yearly award, but 2020 was certainly not your average year. I'm talking about the region's healthcare workers, those who are on the front lines and continue to be on the front lines of the battle against COVID. Many work tirelessly and risk their own health to do so. This is their story.
We heard about it for several months, and then all of a sudden the patients started coming in.
That was quite scary for everyone. No one knew exactly what to expect.
We were starting to talk about shutting down the country to try to limit the spread.
I'm going to be doing an executive order today directing all Floridians to limit movements.
That's when it really started to hit me.
It's out of our books, it's out of our everything that we know.
When we first started having my first patient, it was very scary, making sure that I'm wearing the right mask, making sure that I'm actually covered.
What therapies to give, how to deliver them, all the things that we're going to need for those patients, and how many rooms will we need.
I hope I'm staying safe for my family.
There's this fear of I'm running into the fire while everybody else is hunkering down.
Many healthcare workers, despite the protection we have, probably expect to get it.
Am I going to take this home to my family? Do I need to be removing myself from my home?
So of course that's our mind every day.
I remember the first patient very vividly. There was so much conversation around it because it was a huge change. The first patient was very scary for a lot of people.
Some seemed fine and very calm, and others you can see the fear in their eyes. And we hit the room. No matter what, we go in and do what needs to be done.
We were still learning as we went. So there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, but also still that calling to do what's right for these patients.
Some patients recover pretty well. Some, it takes a little bit longer. But at the same time, we just do whatever they need.
You have to be very loving nature.
All they can see are our eyes. So you have to communicate with your eyes with them to reassure them that you're there for them.
As patient 1 became patient 2 and patient 3, you start to build a little bit of comfortability. So over time, the teams got much more comfortable, but definitely at the beginning, it was a challenge.
I think everyone that's in this together and support each other, they're all heroes.
I appreciate the title heroes. It takes a village.
But if we're gonna go through something like this, I wanna be in it. I wanna be the helper. I want to have an impact, even if it's just a small pillar. I want to be there. It's something that I'm passionate about. That's why I became a nurse, is to help people. And so I wouldn't be anywhere else.
You know what I would tell people about being a respiratory therapist or a healthcare worker? We're there on the worst day of someone's life and the best day of their life, and we know that. And it is a privilege and an honor, yet is just what we do.
You know, one of the people in the video said they want to be there, and that is precisely why we need to have them there. We are talking again about the frontline healthcare workers. Not all of them are highly paid, but every one of them is a vital role in a troubled story that unfortunately still has many chapters left to write. So thank you to our frontline healthcare workers. And now, even though we're all in our separate homes, I'd like to take a moment for everybody to give our finalists a big round of applause. You can even do it on the chat feature, but let's go ahead and give them all a big round of applause. I know they can feel it. Okay, all right. Now it is time to announce this year's winner. And because I want absolutely no part of trying to choose from such an amazing, all-around great group of people, I am going to turn the heavy lifting back over to Mike Lafferty.
Thanks, Scott. 2020 was such an extraordinary year, and it really gave us such an extraordinary group of finalists for the Central Floridian of the Year. And from top to bottom, I can't recall a year when we've had a stronger group or a year when we had a more difficult time choosing a winner. Chris Nikic showed us what determination really looks like. Jose Rodriguez showed us the meaning of caring. Chuck O'Neill showed us true devotion to a cause. Anna Eskamani showed us what public service from a public servant should look like. And even if you don't like his TV commercials or that neat sweatsuit that he was wearing on Twitter today, John Morgan showed us what it means to fight for the little guy. We thank each of them on behalf of the entire region for what they've accomplished this year. But 2020 will always be remembered as the year of a pandemic. And our 2020 Central Floridians of the Year will be remembered as the people who literally saved our lives during the pandemic. I don't know if you all remember those first couple of weeks in March last year. It was terrifying and disorienting. The theme parks were closing, the NBA shut down for the season, and a lot of us were sent home to work from our living room, like I'm doing right now, and we're still here. Doctors and nurses and other frontline healthcare workers, they didn't have that luxury. They had to go in and face the unknown every day. They faced the prospect of getting infected themselves and even carrying the infection home to their families. But they showed up at work every day and they saved lives every day. And we should be so proud of them for their bravery and their sacrifice. So please join me in a big virtual round of applause for our region's frontline healthcare workers. They are the 2020 Central Floridians of the Year. And with that, I'd like to offer a couple of healthcare workers, healthcare representatives that we have to speak on behalf of those workers. First, we have Dr. Tori Pepler, who is the Medical Director of Inpatient Medicine Group and Chair of Medicine for Orlando Health, and for her to say a few words. Dr. Pepler?
Hi there, thank you so much to represent the thousands of Orlando Health physicians, nurses, nursing assistants, therapists, and team members as I accept this award on their behalf. As a leading healthcare provider in Florida, Orlando Health recognized early that we needed to provide community education and the highest level of care to patients ill from COVID-19, while still maintaining safe operations for the other crises that come through our doors. I'm truly happy to say that we accomplished this. Over this last year, the whole world has seen how dedicated healthcare professionals are and continue to be during this pandemic. We provided comfort and compassion to thousands of patients suffering from COVID-19, as well as their friends and family members. This unprecedented time has been personal for us, especially for our teams on the COVID-19 and the intensive care units. They've experienced firsthand the suffering the virus has brought to our community. On their behalf and the behalf of all healthcare workers across the nation at Orlando Health, thank you for this great honor. And when the vaccine is finally available to you, please get it. And thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Pepler. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Don Elton. He is a pulmonary and critical care physician for Point Siena Medical Health. That's an HCA Healthcare Orlando market facility. Dr. Elton?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the awarding of healthcare workers, to recognition of healthcare workers for what all the healthcare workers, respiratory therapists, nurses, medical assistants, and others have gone through taking care of people during the pandemic. I think many of us that have studied history have all heard about these sorts of things and wondered how it would be if it ever came our way. And we really didn't know what to expect when the pandemic came. We had no guidebook to go by, but I think as time went on, we found that most of us had spent our whole careers really preparing and learning the tools necessary to learn how to fight a new disease. And of course, it's still ongoing, but it's certainly good news that things have been improving in recent weeks, and we hope that will continue and that people will continue to take precautions and get their vaccines to protect themselves and their loved ones.
Thanks very much, Dr. Elton. And finally, a few words from Dr. Rebecca Gomez. She is the hospitalist and chair of the Internal Medicine Department for Advent Health Orlando, and she has a few words.
Thank you. No one person can represent all healthcare workers in Central Florida, but on behalf of all of us, thank you. You know about the doctors and the nurses, but every person in healthcare has been affected by this pandemic, from the respiratory therapists to environmental service workers, food service workers, and lab techs, to those working the front desk at the hospital and the parking valets, and so many others. I'm so proud of the work that we've done to care for our fellow Central Floridians. I also want to thank our community as well. Your willingness to wear masks and socially distance has allowed us to avoid the capacity challenges seen in other parts of the country, and we truly could not have done our work without you. So special thanks to all of you who've supported us by doing these things. I again wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to urge everyone to get vaccinated when you have the opportunity, as getting our community vaccinated is the way to bring this pandemic to an end so we can all get back to normal. Those of us in healthcare chose this line of work in order to care for those who need our help, not for recognition, but this recognition shows that you have our backs. And for that, in this past year especially, we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. And yes, everyone, please get vaccinated once you have the opportunity. I want to congratulate again all of the healthcare workers who deserve this award for everything they've done, and congratulate all of our finalists for the work that they've done over the past year. Scott, we may have gotten through this virtual meeting without any glitches, so now it's up to you to bring it home.
Oh, well, thank you for jingling that, Mike. I'm sure that I will probably stumble my way through the final segment, but congratulations to the frontline healthcare workers. You guys represent the best of this community. You represented the vulnerable in this community, and you represented all of this community. So thank you. And I want to not just gloss over in expressing the Sentinel's appreciation to all of our finalists. You guys heal the sick, give voice to the voiceless. You inspire us all. You've done amazing things, and it makes me proud to call Central Florida home. So congratulations again. And thank all of you who are with us for joining us tonight. I hope you feel inspired. As a final note, the Orlando Sentinel will publish the Central Floridian of the Year special coverage in this Sunday's edition on February 28th, where we'll see all the finalists celebrated on orlandosentinel.com as well. In closing, I want to offer thanks again to Advent Health and OUC for their support of the virtual event. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us tonight. Don't let this be the end. Let this inspiration light the spark, and let's all make the world a better place. Thanks for joining us again this year, and we look forward to seeing you next year, hopefully in person.
Since 1876, it's been our mission to help you navigate daily life, reporting on what matters most to the communities where you live and work. In all we do, we are Central Florida. This is the Orlando Sentinel.
For nearly a century, you've counted on OUC for sustainable, safe, and reliable water and energy. You've relied on us, you've powered us. Thank you for making OUC the reliable one, the #1 most trusted electric utility in the nation.
We just pray for the healthcare workers.
Yeah.